Alright, it is Saturday morning. The sun is out. It is beautiful. And there's a golf ball on the road. That'll be fun to hit going slow. Anyway, it is Saturday morning. And I'm going to go out and get the word of the day for the big money rally. Very happy to be able to be riding again. So last night we did a live stream on YouTube, and for all intents and purposes I thought it went pretty well. It obviously was not the most exciting thing. It was just me riding around for an hour, but I don't know anyone else has done that. So, and hey, no one's making you watch it. So this will be a little shorter today, and obviously not live. Well, unless you really want to pretend or something. But the word of the day is Hampton. And in the big money rally, you have to find the word on, quote, permanent signage. And permanent signage is more permanent than you might think. So things like A-boards do not count. Things like tarps in most situations do not count. They want a sign, like, for example, that Safeway sign would be considered permanent signage. Whereas that property cleanup sign right there on the side would not be considered permanent signage, most likely. So anyway, today is Hampton for the word, and luckily for me there is a Hampton Inn right near my house. So for those of you who yes, I am you can't see my mouth moving here. Hopefully I get that synced up, but for now, you're mostly going to see me like this. My guess is there's going to be a whole crap ton of bikes out on the road. It is currently pleasant 68 degrees here in Olympia, Washington. Technically, we're in Lacey. We'll be going into Olympia. So sit back and relax. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit this. If I'm just going to stick the whole thing up on YouTube and you can fast forward through the parts you don't like. Or if you just want to be along for the whole ride, you could do that too. Maybe I'll put timestamps or something. That's pretty easy to do with the YouTube. So I'm not exactly sure what this, what my whole plan is, quite frankly, with YouTube. I mean, it's a podcast. That's first and foremost. A podcast is audio, not video. And one of the things I did not like about the live stream last night was the audio was absolute crap, as you could expect if you just strap a cell phone to your bike and go riding. A lot of wind noise, and pretty much the only way I've ever found to record decent audio on a motorcycle is to use a Sena Prism. Use a Sena Prism with a Sena headset, which takes advantage of what they call HD voice recording. Because Bluetooth, for the most part, there's kind of two kinds of Bluetooth. The one that allows a microphone to be attached to it is essentially what you get with a cell phone Bluetooth headset. And I think it's 8 kilohertz audio. It's really bad. It sounds like you're on a phone call. This, I don't know what exactly, it's probably some Sena proprietary thing, but it definitely sounds a lot better. And so I think probably what I would end up doing is, if nothing else, using this camera for strictly the audio, which is the audio is being recorded on the one on the side of my helmet here. The one that you're seeing here facing me is that's my cell phone. So the Hampton Inn's just right up here. Probably about a little 3-minute drive away. We'll go on a little ride after that, because I mean, you can't get the bike out and just go for 10 minutes. What's the fun in that? One of the things I was looking at this morning was, and I actually hit the button to buy, is a Garmin 360 camera, which I'm thinking will mount very nicely right up there on the dashboard of the bike, and take some pretty cool 360 videos. I've got 3 other Garmin Verb action cams that I bought ostensibly to record the Iron Butt rally last time, and long story short, it didn't work as well as it worked fine. The power was the issue because I had them all hardwired, and I had rigged up this whole 5-volt bus on the FJR, and I don't know, it worked. It also at some point shorted out and caused smoke to come out of one of the cameras. The camera still works, so I'm curious what made the smoke coming out of it. But I'm sure at some point, at the worst possible time, I will find out what made the smoke come out of it. But yeah, after that happened, I just took that system out and just concentrated on the rally. But I'm thinking that the 360 camera, if it's just one camera, it'll be hardwired to power, and I can just turn it on, turn it off. That combined with the helmet cam for audio might be the ticket. So we'll see how that goes. The lovely Hampton Inn and Suites. Now the trick with the Big Money Rally is to find a sign that you can either get your bike right next to or preferably behind, and that isn't too high. And I think this sign right here is going to be the trick. But there's a surprising number of people here. It's kind of surprising. I wouldn't have thought there'd be that many people traveling right now with the whole pandemic. Just see if there's a better sign than that one up there, where we commit ourselves to using that one. It's like all these guest parking signs say Hilton on them. The other thing with the Big Money Rally is a lot of times, because you've got to get your bike in the shot, a lot of times it is significantly easier to use a mirror to get your bike in the shot. And I think that sign there is, because that one's way too high, that would be a pain. So we're going to go with this one, and I'll probably use the mirror for this. Actually, I could just go over into that other parking lot. Let's do that. Alright, so we're going to have to stop this video, but we can continue on this one. And we will open up the fabulous Big Money Rally app. Whoever coded that, man, that guy's a genius. Alright. It's interesting with this rally, I have many times end up using very similar, either the signs at the same place or the same sign over and over and over again. So we're going to zoom in there. See the bike behind it. That'll do. I don't know if you can see that. Code that as the code is WD509. Yep, 509. Submit that and wait for her to be scored. So for those of you who didn't know, I don't know how anyone couldn't know, but just in case you didn't know, I traded in my FJR for, which is incidentally still for sale at the dealership I traded it in for, traded it in for this 2018 Goldwing, which was a demo model, had like 5,000, had like 7,000 miles on it when I bought it. Nice thing was it had a full factory warranty, and so that was kind of slick. And I have to say, I love this motorcycle. It is absolutely amazing. Oh, and if you just saw there, no. And what of the local homeless population here in the Olympia area? Come for the state capitol, stay for the homeless population. So now in the Big Benny Rally, typically what I do is I ride around for a little bit, waiting for my entry to be scored, because for sure what you don't want to do is make some stupid mistake where you take a picture of the wrong word or something, and then you've gone home and then you got to go back out. So let's start recording over here again. I'm going to need gas. Maybe I'll go get gas downtown. There's a gas station downtown that sells ethanol-free gas, so we'll head there. So on the way down there, let's talk a little bit about why I bought this motorcycle. I had a fully rally farkled FJR, and it was probably, I mean, for me, it was a great rally bike. The only catch to it, there was two things that I didn't care for about that bike. First one was it was just a little bit too tall for me. I never felt, well, I guess that's one thing. These two things are kind of one thing. I never felt stable on the bike at low speed because it was a little bit too tall. I was on my tiptoes. Oh, hey, my Big Money Rally score was green there, so that's good. But I was always on my tiptoes when I would be at low speed or coming to a stop. And the bike always felt just incredibly top heavy to me, and that was most assuredly not helped out by the fact that I had the aux tank on it with a bunch of fuel on the back up higher, and plus the luggage up high. So those things did not help. When bringing the steering back with the Healy bar riser, it brought it back right to where the tank bag was, and that also did not, I don't know, you were always up against the tank bag at low speed, so I just never felt good on the bike. It did not feel like it fit me well. It felt like I needed to be about 5 or 6 inches taller for that bike to fit me. And incidentally, if you look at a lot of the people who ride FJRs, they're all taller for the most part, or they've lowered them. When I added the Russell Daylong seat, again, I don't think any one of these things is what did it. I think it's just the combination of all of them is what really caused that. So the second thing that I didn't care for on that bike was, and it's one of those things I didn't realize it. Second thing I didn't care for is there was not good back support on that bike, and I had tried to construct it as best I could, and it was pretty good with the Russell Daylong. It wasn't bad or anything, but it was one of those things where I didn't realize that I didn't care for it until I rode a Goldwing And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's probably something like, so if you're used to sitting on a kitchen chair with no cushion on it all your life, you don't know any better. And then you sit in a lazy boy, and it's like Shangri-La, and that's probably the equivalent for me. It's like most people just know what a comfortable seat, and the Russell Daylong seat was very comfortable. It's just the lack of back support, lower back support especially, and the fact that I was having to reach just a little bit for the bars. So fast forward to the end of the Iron Butt Rally, and John Kerr and I are riding home together, and he had mentioned that he's like, hey, you want to ride my bike a little bit on the way back? And so we switched bikes for a couple hours, like an hour or so, and oh my gosh, it was, now he had a stock seat, he had an air hawk on it, and it was just like the amount of, it was about the same for me as when I went from going from the R1200 GS for wind protection to the FJR. About that same amount of difference going from the FJR to the Goldwing. So, yeah. So I started looking around once I got home, and was able to locate this bike. And the more I thought about it, if you've ever seen my bike at a rally, you'll notice I have very little in the way of electronics, at least in the cockpit. I had, at the 2017 Iron Butt Rally, somebody told me that that's the most Spartan cockpit they've ever seen, because basically what I have is I have one GPS, and I have my cell phone, which I run Waze off of. And I used to run 2 GPSs, but for the most part, that's what I use, is just those 2 devices. And with this bike, get the addition of CarPlay, which I don't know how I ever live without this. It's, as you can see there on the screen, you got Waze. The other nice thing it does is, with Waze especially, it gives you your speedometer up in the upper right hand corner there, which, going from the FJR, that's one thing I really liked about that bike, was that it had a digital speedometer. For whatever reason, I just found that easier to use and to see quickly. This bike, I'm always kind of I have to take a kind of a double take of how fast I'm going, which I'm sure I'll get used to. But yeah, Waze is pretty nice on CarPlay. Alright. Say every person in the world can be getting gas in their boat today. Alright. Gas gotten. And yeah, it is 80 degrees out. Can't remember the last time it was 80 degrees. Hasn't been 80 degrees this year, I'm pretty sure. The tail end of Puget Sound right there. Probably the most southerly part of Puget Sound. So anyway, more on this bike. I really like it. I mean, it's like anything else where there's things you don't like about everything. And in this case, I would list that as the fact that you have to pretty much disassemble the entire bike to do anything on it. If you need, the most egregious example is the air cleaner. To get to the air cleaner, you had to take every single bit of plastic off the front of the bike from the seat forward, which seems a bit much. Seems like they probably could have figured out a way to do that. But yeah, you have to. I mean, the good definitely outweighs the bad on this. And I probably will. My goal is to actually do some either write-ups or videos on what I've done to this bike to start getting it rally ready. But let's just start with the windshield, because because I bought it as a demo bike, it came with a National Cycles V-Stream windshield, which is what I had on my FJR, and really liked it, and liked it on here. But that's not what I'm running right now. I'm actually running a F4 Customs windshield, and the reason for that is it is 4 inches wider total, 2 on each side. And what I find is that it has just a little bit more protection in the shoulder area. Now there's some other things that I don't care for about it too that you might be able to see, one of them, but I'll leave those for a later time. But the other thing I've done is I've added some additional wind protection. You can see the ones up at the front here by the mirrors there. And then I've actually created my own. I added these. I don't think you can see them very well, but I've added my own on the inboard side of the clear waters that I added. Now, Honda does make a lower air deflector, which works really well, that hangs right below the mirrors. Unfortunately, that's the spot, really the only spot you also have to mount auxiliary lights. So you can't have both. Well, I wanted both, so I bought some plexiglass and basically rolled my own. Bought a plexiglass jigsaw blade and got to work cutting and shaping, and did a lot of trial and error, and eventually got something that I think works pretty good, and it definitely keeps the air off of your hands. It's quite amazing. And for me, a lot of that is because I do ride in the winter up here, and it's raining a lot, and so in addition to keeping air off your hands, it's keeping water off your hands. So that is nice. The other thing I did from the Greg Rice School of Zero Airflow Anywhere on You, one of the tips Greg had was that he had taken some closed-cell foam and shoved it down into the tunnel down here. And Greg sent me the link of the stuff he used, and I've done it, and it is amazing to me how much air was coming out of there. And the other thing that's kind of odd is it doesn't just come straight up, it comes out at a 90-degree angle as well. And so there'll be, and actually I can feel it right here, there's air that flows out on both sides. It's a lot less with this in there, but it is still there. So that's one of those things where you don't realize that it's a problem until you got the fix for it. And we'll see how long this holds up. It's squishy enough that it's not going to actually do anything. I mean, if the steering touches it, it just compresses. So, and it's not near anything hot, so I'm not worried about it catching on fire. And I think it would have by now if it was going to. So, right now it's a it really does cut down on the wind. And down here they've got some the plastic extenders, wind deflectors out here, which came on the bike when I got it, and I'm really kind of glad I got it came on with these, because if you put your hand right in front of it like that, there is a very large amount of hot air coming right off the radiators right there, and so I think that would be coming right back onto me, which in the winter might not be such a bad thing, but in the summer that would not be a lot of fun. So that's and then the other things. Other things I've done is I put the Healy bar risers on this as well, which bring the bars up and back. Definitely is beneficial. The one nice thing about this bike, because it's got a backrest, you can really position yourself to be a little more forward in a kind of natural where you naturally sit. So, but with the Healy bars on there, it's a lot more comfortable. My arms are more bent than they were. They were kind of just about sticking straight out. Let's see, what else have I done? I have run, so the USB cable for the phone is actually in this compartment here. And so they provide you this nice little foam thing that you're supposed to put your phone in to protect it, and so your phone's not ever out. Well, okay. Let's be honest, the phone's going to be out. And so what I did is I actually ran a USB extension cable. I drilled out one of the existing holes here a little bit bigger, put in a USB extension cable, and ran that up to the handlebars here. And I used a USB extension cable for two reasons instead of running a lightning cable. First one is that as soon as I ran a lightning cable up, Apple was bound to change the form factor, and then I'd be stuck having to take everything apart to run that again. Second is I have had issues with lightning cables when they get wet, certain ones of them, because a lightning cable actually has some electronics in it. If they get wet, they stop working. And so I didn't want to have an issue with the lightning cable specifically if it ever went bad. And so basically what I did is I ran that extension cable up here, and then have a little pigtail that comes off of it for the lightning cable. Have a picture of that or something maybe, but that works just fine. Whew, it is warm. Well, a lot of you are probably like, 78, that's not warm. Yeah, that's warm around here. The other thing I've done that I kind of mentioned there was I did put on the Clearwater Ericas on this bike, which are the more floodlight version of the Clearwaters. I'm not sure if I like those more or not than the Cristas. They're a little bit bigger than the Cristas, but the Cristas were more of a spotlight, and I did kind of like that. I mean, they do make whatever it is. I can't remember what the big one is they make. That's both a spot and a flood at the same time. But if I had it to do over again, I might go back to the Cristas. These are fine. They throw a lot of light downrange. But there was just something about having that spotlight that I did kind of enjoy, because there was enough light spillage off of it that it lit up the side just fine. It's probably one of those things I'd never notice the difference if I hadn't had the other one first, and I'd be just fine with these. So done a couple other things on it that I'll probably do a write-up or something on eventually. But yeah, that has I really like this bike, and I can't wait to do a rally on it. Scheduled to do a rally later this summer, the North by Northwest rally. Knock on wood, it happens, down in Bend, Oregon, run by the Nitwit group. And hopefully between now and then I can get an auxiliary tank put on it. Kind of know what I want to do with that already, just need to get it built. I think I'm going to... Yeah, I just got to figure out kind of the details and how I'm going to get my bike to where it needs to be built. So, we'll see from there. Gosh, what a beautiful day. Such a beautiful day, I kind of don't want to spend part of it editing this video. So maybe I'll just throw the whole thing up there, see what happens. Alright, well that'll just about wrap up this video. I hesitate to say it because it sounds so freaking cliche, but please subscribe down below. It does help me get to 1,000 subscribers so I can actually live stream through the YouTube app. But yeah, if you could subscribe, I'd definitely appreciate it. And definitely subscribe to Long Riders Radio. It's a monthly podcast. Talk to the most interesting people in long distance riding. So with that, have a good day, everyone. Ride safe.